today to discuss the advantages and disadvantages of democracy, dictatorship, martial law. The advantages of democracy are democracies give people a chance to become personally involved with their government, encourages equality in a positive way, encourages criticism more than extremism, and encourages that people's rights are safeguarded, equal growth and development, inhibits the monopolization of power. Everyone can be a politician, participation in election, and last is religious freedom. The first advantages of democracy is democracies give people a chance to become personally involved with their government, because the government of democracy is under the control of people and their voice. Then it is up to each individual to decide their fate. People can choose to vote in whatever the way their morality dictates. Some even give voters the option to not vote if that is what they feel is the best way to express their opinion. Every ballot is an opportunity to express one's personal opinion, whether that voice lands in the majority or not. There is an agreement in a democracy that a tally of votes stands unless there is a clear moral objection to the outcome. The second advantages of democracy is encourages equality in a positive way. The structure of democracy gives every vote an equal amount of weight during an election. These options gives each person the chance to cast a ballot without judgment when they register for this process, providing an opinion that despite their social or economic status, everything a yes or no counts as one. Whether you are rich or poor, own land or not, and either express your gender in a specific way.
The third advantages of democracy is encourages centrism more than extremism. Even in this current wave of populism that is happening around the world, the format of democracy encourages people to come to the center more often than it favors the extreme. There are times when a complete majority of a single party can win an election, but even then, there can be enough disagreement within the ranks that compromises must happen. This process makes it possible for voters or their representatives to aggregate the different needs of each community toward a coherent policy that protects the needs of everyone, that ensures that the interests of each segment of society can receive the protection they need while providing a higher level of accountability for the governing action which offer. The fourth advantages of democracy is it guarantees that people's rights are safeguarded. The important advantages of democracy is that it puts the demands of the people first. As a result, citizens have the freedom to travel around the country, voice their opinions on any topic, and vote out the government if it's not serving the best interests of individuals and the country.
Democracy, equal growth and development. Growth and development are not disproportionate, and it aims to create growth for all sectors of society by taxing the wealthy and providing subsidies to the poor and weak. As a result, it strives to guarantee that money does not accumulate in the hands of a few wealthy individuals and that all inhabitants of the country benefit from the country's progress. Next advantages of democracy is it inhibits the monopolization of power. It inhibits the monopolization of power. Democracy avoids a monopoly of the governing authorities since the government is bound by an election term in which party strives for power. And because they will not be re-elected if their policies do not benefit the people, the elected governing party will make sure that their policies benefit the people.
The next advantages of democracy is everyone can be a politician. And democracy, if you want to become a politician, you are basically free to join a political party. If the members of the party share your attitude, you might have a good chance to get up the political ladder and to become an important politician one day, who has the power to really make an impact. In other political regions, this would often not be possible since rulers are often not willing to let their power go and may suppress their parties who want to get more power. The next is participation and election. And democracy, people are also allowed and even encourages to participate in elections. This gives the people the opinion to vote for their favorite politicians or party, and therefore to determine to a certain extent how the country's future might look alike. The last is religious freedom. And democratic countries also often preserve the religious freedom of people. For instance, if you live in a democratic country, chances are that you will be allowed to pray and to act out your religious beliefs without having a fear of any sentences as long as you don't harm others or engage in extremist activities. The disadvantages of democracy are the sheep mentality. Democracy may slow down important decisions. Too many unnecessary discussions lead to corruption. Politicians may act in an opportunistic manner. Last is voters may lack information. The first disadvantages of democracy is the sheep mentality. The major disadvantages of democracy is that people are more likely to be swayed and follow sheep mentality, voting in favor of inept governments, and there is no way to reverse the decision since in a democracy, the government is only in the power of 3 or 5 years. An effective administration lasting 5 years indicates the country is regressing, and it takes a decade to correct incompetent government's mistakes. As a result, it is preferable for illiterate voters to abstain from voting than to vote for inept political parties. The second disadvantages of democracy is democracy may slow down important decisions. Even though democracy has many important advantages, there are some also downsides to it. One problem of democracy is that important decisions often take quite long until everyone agrees. Most of the time, there has to be plenty of compromising in order to pass a law. This may be a big issue, especially if decisions are time critical, and long delays may lead to serious economic or social issues.
Third disadvantages of democracy is too many unnecessary discussions. Politicians in democracy often also waste plenty of time of unnecessary discussions about minor things that actually do not matter in the big context of a problem at all. Those minor discussions may further delay important political decisions. The fourth disadvantage of democracy is politicians may act in an opportunistic manner. Politicians may also have their own interests in mind in a democracy, similar to dictatorship, in case their political survival is on the line. Politicians may act in a way what favors them instead of doing what would be beneficial for the general public.
Disadvantages of democracy is leads to corruption. Leads to corruption because it is based on electoral competitions. Politicians are also frequently involved in corruption affairs. Politicians get briefed by big firms to act in the company's interest instead of doing what would be best for the general public. Especially in democracies in poor developing countries, politicians are often quite vulnerable to corruption since they can make a lot of money compared to the average income of the population. Next disadvantage of democracy is voters may lack information. Even though in many countries, parties often provide plenty of information about their political goals through the internet, many people often still lack information about their respective parties. This may be due to insufficient internet access or also since people do simply not care about this topic. However, uninformed people may vote for extremist parties or worse, which may lead to serious social problems.
The advantages of dictatorship are low crime rates, rapid progression, efficient administration, stable government, less room for corruption, and efficient during emergencies. Low crime rates. In a dictatorship, usually there are very strict rules and punishment for even a small crime or violation of the law. Such strict punishment arise that treat among people. Thus, There are lower crimes as compared to the countries which do not have a dictator form of government. Rapid progression. The dictators have access and control over everything right from the economy to the laws and the people. Hence, they do not have to worry about this field. They set their goals in which they have to progress and develop. The absence of other concerns helps them to achieve their goal easily.
Efficient administration. Efficient administration is they set the rule and regulation which they think are suitable. No one amongst the citizens dares to object them, because there is no consultation or debates taking place over any issues. Hence, quick actions can be taken. This makes a dictator country always stay ahead of rival nations. Stable government. Stable government in a dictatorship, since the decision-making lies with only one person and others do not have any say in the working of the government, it offers a kind of stability to the country. Problems such as frequent elections, as in the case of democracy, or a disruption of peace due to political factions, do not arise in a dictatorship.
The fifth advantages of dictatorship is less room for corruption. A dictator is very stringent with regards to the rules, regulations, penalties, punishment, and rewards. This makes the people working under him less liable to corruption. The sixth advantages of dictatorship is efficient during emergencies. When a country faces any kind of emergency, such as a war or a health epidemic, a dictatorship government can prove to be the most efficient one. The reason being that all the decisions are taken by one person, so there is no ambiguity with regards to the plan of action, as well as individual responsibilities that are fixed to cope with the emergency. One of its main advantages over democracy, those is that it is better equipped to face emergencies. The disadvantages of dictatorship are it leads to abuse of power, always oppress and suppress the people, mass killings, the population is never happy with such a government, no freedom. Dictators can rewrite the laws at any time. The first disadvantages of dictatorship is it leads to abuse of power. The dictator misuses his power at the expense of citizens. Second disadvantages, always oppress and suppress the people. Ever promote their own favorites and interests. This causes inequality, but no one really objects because it would mean putting oneself in danger at the hands of the ruling government.
Mass killing. Large number of innocent people are killed because the people might get frustrated with the policies of the government, and this makes the dictator consider the person and enemies of the government. The population is never happy with such a government. So it's possible that at some point the masses will protest and agitable against the policies of unity and try to overthrow the government. This dictatorship is not permanent and never sustained for long. It somehow leads to war.
The fifth disadvantages of dictatorship is no freedom. All dictatorship restricts freedom of thought and action. Only groups and people who think how the dictatorial regime thrive. Critics with such a regime can make opposition and can end up in prison or dead. In a dictatorship, there is no plurality or diversity. All the people must adopt the rules of life dictated by the regime. Dictators can rewrite the laws at any time. In a democracy, the leader cannot change the laws on a whim. The law first needs to be passed by the House and the Senate. This is not the case with the dictatorship. The leader changes the laws at any time simply by issuing an order. This means that Any law, even something entirely unfair to a specific class of people, can go into effect right away. The people don't have any say in what becomes a law, and it is all up to the dictator.
The advantages of martial law are eradicate criminality, improve peace, eliminate any signs of terrorism, remove corrupt officials, and promote equality and equity. First, advantages of martial law is eradicate criminality. If a country is blockaded by a series of negative elements that continues to harm the society, the leader is now pressured to declare martial law. It is to neutralize all criminal offenders responsible to risking the safety and impunity against the society. Restoration of peace is the one of main issues why martial law is important to the society once in a while so that the level of criminal rates can significantly go down and safeguard the welfare of society. The second advantages of martial law is improved peace. Martial law proclamation would mean that peace is the main goal so that it will provide a measure for the society and live in peace. All society want peace in their community because they want to have the chance to elevate their socio-economic lifestyle. The leader must have do an immediate action to their community will be from any sort of disturbance that might raise the state of peace their people are currently enjoying it. The third advantages of martial law is eliminate any signs of terrorism. Terrorism is now of the most problematic security issues affecting the society and prosperity of certain nations. If terrorism is very rampant in community, declaring martial law is necessary. This is to flush out all insurgents who are terrorizing the community and responsible for provoking harm, intimidation, and corruption to the peaceful society that we are currently living. The fourth advantages of martial law is remove corrupt officials. Public officials who are corrupt will be under contempt, which will allow the rule of law to apprehend them due their mistake. This is because there are several government officials who are utilizing the government just to justify the self-greed. Removing corruption officials is more efficient when martial law is applied because there is tighter implementation and enforcement of law. The last advantage of martial law is promote equality and equity. In every society, one must apply equality which provides equal rights that aim to protect the dignity and as well as the image of individual, group, and organization. As for equity, it seeks to promote privilege of justify any rights of every member of the society for the purpose of providing them the opportunity to become productive in their life, any suspicious activities or attempts.
Sige, start.
The disadvantages of martial law: death of democracy, no freedom of speech, human rights abuse, economic collapse, increases police power, a risk for a political crisis. Human rights abuse. Police force is a prominent factor along with the propulsion of military force. Across the society, incidents of police or military brutality will be on the rise as the leaders will start ordering apprehension for any local leaders, including their supporters and allies. There will be a mass protest with response to human rights abuse, which further degrades both political and economic situation of the society. Economic collapse. With the freezing of all three branches and the concentration of police and military forces that only follows orders from the government, both micro and macroeconomic stability of the nation can significantly collapse. This can in fact local and international business to help their operation, trading and transportation of goods and services are affected. There will be more individuals who became jobless, risking their socio-economic situation.
Increase police power. Police force can have a main privilege to exercise their position as a security personnel. They can be even more powerful than a local official once martial law is implemented. This is because all orders will be martialized by the police personnel, especially if the supreme leader will go against other lower rank leaders of the government. The police force only follows the command of the supreme leaders and not from the local leaders. Arrest for a political crisis. Martial law freezes the power of executive, legislative, and judiciary branches of the government, in which the leader is the sole responsible for regulating these three branches. Prolonged martial law can raise the political security of the society. Local leaders may form an alliance against the government, sparking a political crisis. If this happens, the legitimacy of the leader collapses. That's all. Thank you.